So let's talk about qualitative research. And as you already know, most of the time in our sessions, on the sessions with me, we were discussing quantitative research. So we were talking about the paradigms, quantitative paradigms. We were talking about quantitative methodologies like correlational research, like descriptive research, like explorative research, and experimental research. Although we didn't have the full course on experimental research due to time constraints, but we have all of these things regarding reliability, validity, different methodologies, and different methods for acquiring the data. We have it for quantitative research and for qualitative research. So the whole course, we already discussed quantitative research and the analysis, the interpretation of the data, the obtention, collection of the data. And now we will talk a little bit about qualitative research. So I already know that some of you already conducted qualitative research. So I will be really fast regarding the introduction to qualitative methods. If one of you is still not familiarized with the difference between quantitative and qualitative research, and with the fast summary, still it's a bit in the dark, let me know, and we can go deeper into that. But for me today, what is more important is for you to understand the range of methods that you have as a researcher. And I will always recommend using mixed methods, as I always told you. Why? Because as we know right now, research in psychology has some issues, right? We have some problems regarding replication, as you already know. Some of these problems are due to misconceptions of inferential statistics. You already know about this, of p-values. We have problems regarding the role of normality in the data analysis. You already know about the normality curve that should be like that in order to make the inferential statistics that we want to make. You already know the problems with the p-value, the problems with p-hacking. You already know about sample bias, publication bias, researcher bias, and most importantly, and we discussed this last time when Enrico was with us, some of the problems that we have regarding post-traumatic growth is the difficulties of translating the psychological construct into the psychological measurement. And specifically, what do you mean with the concept? Like, we have lack of a strong theoretical background of the constructs that we want to measure. And this is the main issue. And this is why research like the one Moritz is carrying in, and Matthias, they are talking about the conceptualization. And this is why it's important, because at this point, this group, it's highlighting the importance of interdisciplinarity. So this is where you can help psychology regarding this concept construction. And obviously, you already know a little bit about reliability and validity of the instruments, which is also important. So with all these problems that we have right now in psychology or psychological research, like maybe we can have also some potential solutions, because right now most of research in psychology, as you know, is quantitative, is correlational, and is cross-sectional. So it's very, very limited. We already know the correlation is not causation, and even then, a lot of researchers are using correlational analysis in order to make certain claims that cannot hold. We already discussed this during the course. So what are the potential solutions for these issues? Well, one of them is to do more descriptive research, not only inferential research, not only correlational research. Another potential solution is pre-registration. When you pre-register your hypothesis and your analysis, it's less likely that you will do p-hacking and your analysis will be less biased. So it is very, very important. Obviously, conducting longitudinal research and not just assessing people just one time, but taking different measures across a year, across 2 years, across even 3 or 5 years. So even though there are quantitative studies, they can be longitudinal, like the one Farhud is carrying on right now. Another possible solution is obviously being careful regarding the conceptualizations of the construct. And finally, I will say using qualitative research in your studies. So using mixed methods is even better. So you are using quantitative and qualitative. However, the richness of qualitative research is very, very important, and it will add a lot to the studies that we are interested in regarding, for example, post-traumatic growth. So qualitative research, a quick introduction. This kind of approach has different meanings. It can mean different things. It's multi-methodical, and all of the methods involve interpretative, naturalistic approach to the individuals of a study. So this is the main characteristic. It has to be interpretative because it is trying to extract meaning or to interpret the phenomena according to the significance that have for the individuals involved. So this is very, very important. It is not trying to use a blueprint like a survey in quantitative research and asking a closed question, and then you are missing a lot of the information. So this is the main goal, and obviously it aims to be naturalistic. This means that the reality is studied in its natural context, wherever it happens. So no in artificial laboratories where the participant is likely to behave differently because it's not the normal life. So this is the main pillars of qualitative methodologies. Now, for your knowledge, we have many different qualitative methodologies. We have ethnographic research, we have action research, we have phenomenological research, grounded theory research, ethnomethodological research, autoethnography, narrative biographical research. We have many different kinds of approaches. All of these are different, but they have in common the things I just described. So you can first pick one of these, and after selecting your methodology, you will have like a recipe to follow, and then you will pick your methods to data collection. Now, regarding the methods, as you know, we have in qualitative research in-depth interviews, we have direct observation, participant observation, we have focus groups, document analysis, and for example, free listing, which is less known, but it has been out there for more than 30 years already. So this is the methods that we already know. Maybe many of you already uses. Now, the key of this talk is talk about what is new or what is changing in qualitative research. What are the innovations that we can expect in qualitative research? And we have innovations in different areas, even in the philosophical paradigms, because now we have, for example, feminist research, but we also have innovations in ways for data collections, in ways to data analysis, and in ways we select the sample of our study. All of these innovations are about centering marginalized voices in research via strategic sample selection. They are trying to embrace technology and virtual platforms, like performing, for example, ethnographic research, which is another kind of methodology. And obviously now the focus is in interdisciplinary research lenses. So are some of the new things that are out there for qualitative research. And I would like to focus today in one of them that I think is very important. It is very important to find new ways for people to communicate their views, their feelings, and their experiences. It is about taking qualitative research beyond the interviews, because let's think about having an interview and trying to collect this information from participants and their experiences and feelings. It is not the same for all the participants. Some of them, it is easy for them to share in this way. It is easy for them to communicate, or they already have a script of themselves, and then they communicate this script in this way. However, it is obvious that this doesn't work for everybody. So if not everybody, it is easy to narrate in this way, in a verbal way, his feelings or experiences, then just with interviews, we cannot grasp the full phenomena. And this is why now they are creating new data collection methods. And this is very important because actually you can use these really fast methods and combine it with quantitative research, and then you have mixed methods research, and it doesn't have to be so time consuming and so resource consuming. For example, one of the new methods is a story completion task. And in this, for example, you start with the beginning of a story, and you ask the participants to end the story. And then you are collecting. It is something similar like a projection test, like the test of thematic perception, the TAT. So it is very interesting, for example, to see what people will create. Some of the other methods are, for example, diary methods, like writing in a diary, for example, or having interactive voice responses where you have calls, like automatic calls with them, and then you get some of the information in real time in several times of the day. This is something also new, and you are collecting this verbal information. They are also exploring visual methods, like, for example, art-based research or photo elicitation, because for some people, it is not easy to communicate verbally, but they can communicate with their body. They can communicate drawing something or telling you a story about something else. So all of these methods are trying to really tackle into this kind of necessities that we have in order to grasp the full phenomena. We also have community mapping, spiral walks, pair interviews. These pair interviews is really interesting because sometimes it is a little bit like focus group, because the response of one participant is triggering another intervention. But then in pair interviews, there is very more connection. Yeah, Matthias?
Excuse me, may I have a question? In the 90s, when I studied pedagogic in Germany, I learned some basic skills about qualitative interviews and qualitative research. And I learned that a single transcription of a talk interview and a speech interview needed 8 hours to analyze it and to transcript it and to interpret it and so on. And that new data collection methods are more, they need a huge of interpretation from the researcher. So there is a huge danger of false interpretation, or how to make research with dancing, with moves, and with reactions on a photo. How can that be valid and reliable?
Yeah, this is a very valid concern, and there is a paper talking about all of these dangers and how to be careful with it and what kind of information we can draw about it. And actually, I leave you this paper in the Moodle platform, so you can download it there. And the main thing here, Matthias, the main way they are trying to do it right now, they are trying to create systematic ways of doing the analysis. And we have now very different kinds of analysis that we didn't have before. And we also have like the computers and even artificial intelligence is able to help us identifying certain categories that may be less biased, at least less biased by the researcher. It may be biased about the artificial intelligence, obviously, and we have to take all of this into account. This is more about, Matthias, about having more views about the same phenomena, but obviously being careful about the validity and reliability of the data and interpretations that we are doing. So they already established a blueprint of systematizing how to apply these methods in order to be more valid and reliable. But obviously, it will depend on the ethics of the researcher, on the systematicity they apply, on the time they have, and obviously of the conclusions they make. Because one thing is just to describe what happened and leave it open, and another thing is to make a conclusion, which I think it will be wrong because obviously it's open for interpretation. So it's very valid concern. And I will leave you the paper about this systematization for you to check it out if you are interested in this kind of methodologies. Okay? For example, Matthias, here you have an example of the different qualitative data analysis methods that we have right now. So all of these are about systematicity, categorization, and organizing the data. So right now, you can have the classic content analysis, discourse analysis, narrative analysis, but we also have for example, semantic networks, cognitive mapping, like grounded theory. Grounded theory is really good because you have so much data and you are running the data again and again and the categories again and coming back and collecting more data that you really exhaust the phenomena. So obviously it's very time consuming, but it tends to be less biased. So you have a lot of tools in order to be careful. Actually, one of the main reasons why qualitative research is not more widely used is because it is really, really time consuming. As you already mentioned, just a small interview. It can last just 3 minutes and then like converting it to text and it will be a lot of pages and then analyzing it will be like very, very costly. This is why Amber was looking to conduct some qualitative research, and I was worried from the beginning because it can be really, really time consuming. And obviously, if you want validity and reliability, you want to have different person analyzing the data, so it can be really resource intense also. So here, for example, for validity and reliability, these are some of the ways you have as a researcher to be careful with the data you are collecting, with the analysis you are performing, and with the conclusions that you are drawing. So here we have to use triangulation, Matthias, and not just a triangulation of theories, which is the most common, but also triangulation of researchers, triangulation of methods and methodologies. So different ways of acquiring the data are telling you the same thing. This is also important. It is often not carry on. And also data triangulation. So if you are systematic like this and you take care of most of these things, you are able to be more secure about the things you are observing of the phenomena. So this was this was the small introduction that I have for you today, but I would like for us to discuss a little bit more about these new methods in qualitative research. And for that, I would like to ask Sarah to share with us. She was conducting a study, and she told me that she had a different experience when with the community. They were in a different setting, and they had a different prompt for them. And then the way they were more relaxed and they were more sharing more openly. Do you remember, Sarah? You told me about this experience that you had. Would you like to share it with everybody?
Sorry, Gina, I'm not remembering very specifically what that would have been, but yeah, certainly. I mean, my research usually has been qualitative, but more focused on narrative analysis and just sort of much smaller focus group and one-to-one interviews. And so my experience is always engaging with people in their community, in their setting. Sometimes that's been in church contexts and sort of engaging things that are relevant to that local community. But yeah, that's
Yeah, the activity that I am referring to, Sarah, I think it was involved with gathering a part of the community, I think in a church, and they were, I don't know if they were sharing or praying there, and then they were more relaxed, and you don't recollect. I don't remember exactly where you told me that you were, but you told me you were fascinated by seeing their reaction, because you noticed that they were more relaxed now, that they didn't see you like outsiders, and they have to put certain face and give you certain responses, but they were more relaxed, and you were a bit more like part of the community. But I don't remember if you were praying or you were meditating. Maybe you were meditating. I don't remember exactly what you told me. No, you don't
sorry,
remember.
Gina. It's not ringing a bell, but maybe it was something we were talking about with the study that I'm trying to design, which again would involve faith-based communities in Ghana and Jamaica, looking at transatlantic communities. But yeah, sorry, that's not ringing a bell. So I'm just trying to think of what that would have been. But certainly, yeah, I can think of just the some research I did years ago with a Nigerian congregation in Scotland, and having just spent enough time kind of in their regular worship services and being part of their activities and so on, certainly developed a level of trust that, you know, they were quite happy to engage in interviews and so on, because they didn't feel that it was sort of outside research. They, you know, there was just a high level of trust, that I was part of the community. I was sympathetic. I was sufficiently sympathetic to the community that they were happy to talk about experiences and so on, because they felt that it was a very a safe space, and that their perspectives would be viewed respectfully and you know, given appropriate kind of weight and so on. But yeah, sorry, I can't remember the exact.
I think this
what
is
we were talking about.
the one that I was referring to, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing. And I think it's very, very important to hear your experience, because this is what qualitative research is about. Because if I ask you, like for you, what is the difference between conducting survey research and just building a questionnaire and then putting it online and gathering the information, and then you are looking at your data, and then in contrast you have these kind of experiences where you can see how they behave in group, where they are behaving differently with you, even at the beginning of the service, at the middle of the service, at the end, because this is evolving. So why is it evolving? You can look at the dynamics because you are there, because you are involved, because you are open. And this is not a closed interview. This is not a semi-structured interview. So you are really being part, sharing, and maybe not having a script will help you see a broader picture. So I think these kind of experiences are very important. And one of the things that I want to discuss with you today is, for example, one of these methodologies that are really making having some track here is art-based research, and has to do with drawing at certain part of the day, like how do you feel, what do you feel like drawing, and the way you do it. And obviously the way you make the analysis is a bit projective, and you have to be careful with the analysis, but it's a way for them to express, and even going beyond, Matthias, because this is one thing that I forgot to tell you before. One of the methodologies we have in qualitative research is action research. So action research is just while you are collecting the data, the methods that you use are actually making an influence, and they are changing the dynamics. So before you were there and after you were there, the phenomena is different. And now you can actually make a change in the things. And this is what Sarah did, for example, in his experience, because after this experience, they were more open, they were more trusting these researchers. So the experience changed. So here, for example, with art-based research, it's really important about how you are transforming or helping transform the community. And this is why these methods are really important, even though we have to be careful with validity and reliability. And for example, the thing that I want to ask you, all of you, for example, if art-based research is making really a big change in this kind of research, what about having a different experience, like, for example, meditation, and having meditation-based research where you have some sessions about meditating, and they are like calming down, they are getting to know other people in different circumstances, maybe dropping some barriers, maybe you are changing this scenario, and you are changing also their lives and the possibilities they have in order to be more calm, or to communicate with other members of the community. So this is one, for example, a meditation-based research. But I want to ask you, what about praying-based research? Maybe like being in a prayer, and the way they share these feelings and concerns, and the way they connect to each other also changes the dynamics, and can be also interesting. I don't know, how do you see it? Well, before we have Matthias, and then if you have some thoughts regarding the situation of being in a religious community, and what kind of practices could help people open and share more than with just an interview. Matthias?
Well, 2 points. Amber asked some minutes ago if you could say more about spiral walks, what that is, and what that is, what is meant by that. So that please don't forget it. And my own question is, do you have examples for research papers concerning post-traumatic growth in that new qualitative research methods? Because I have no vision how to do a qualitative research with dancing and spiral walks and whatever. Yes, whatever. I wonder how to get a valid information in the end. Yes.
Yeah.
And that would be interesting for me. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, Matthias. Spiral walks are just about setting a environment for people to be more calm and for them to be more easy to share the information. So technically here, you are talking to them one-on-one, and you are recording this conversation while you are walking around, for example, in a garden. So you are trying to make it more naturalistic, or you are trying to make it more fluent, in order for people to open in a different way that maybe sitting and being observed or being recorded by a camera that is exactly looking at you. And so with the spiral walks, you are collecting the information while walking in calm environments, recording this information, trying to collect a different phase of the phenomenon. These are the spiral walks. And regarding post-traumatic growth, it's very good question, and this is something that we should discuss as a group, because this course is about methods, research methods. Now you know a lot of research methods, but how can we apply these methods to study post-traumatic growth? That is the thing that is bringing us here. Most of the literature of post-traumatic growth, Matthias, it is quantitative. Now, like I will say, from 5 years to now, it is getting more mixed methods because they are using more narrative research. However, they are turning narrative research into quantitative, and actually they are doing factor analysis to data collected with narrative research. So it's still a bit really square. Why they do it like this? Obviously, because they are taking care of reliability and validity, and they don't want people saying, you know what, you are just telling me this, and it is just your opinion. And this is why they are going this way. However, we have big limitations if we don't go beyond that. So how can we go beyond that? We can go beyond that. Actually, a class that we missed last time because it took more time for you to explain your studies. We missed one course that it was named experimental methods, and experimental methods are more about not using just survey research, not just using correlational research, but being more objective, like really observing changes, not measuring changes with a scale that you don't even know what is measuring, but because the concept is too fuzzy. So we can actually build experimental research with post-traumatic growth. Obviously, we won't induce post-traumatic growth. We won't traumatize someone just to measure it, how they behave, because experimental is about inducing, about changing the variable to see exactly if your change is actually making the difference after you measure. So obviously, we won't traumatize people in order to conduct experimental research, but there is a way to have control groups of people that was traumatized and people that didn't experience that trauma, and then looking behaviorally, like looking objective things that they are doing right now. For example, if they are more involved with the communities, if they were seeking more out for friends or family, but not asking them, like, are you seeking more for family after COVID? Not asking them, but measuring. So having focus groups or having diaries that is giving you the information that this thing happened, or even you can, for example, using digitalization, you can use, for example, a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group, and you can see how they are trying to help others. For example, in a WhatsApp group, someone can ask for someone for something, and then you see who is actually reaching out, trying to help someone else. So maybe this person that is exposing this behavior of helping others, it will give you an objective measure of how this person changed. And you can measure it in different times. So we can actually introduce all these kind of things that will be less biased than just surveys. and just correlational research to our studies. This is just an example that I had with experimental research. Actually, I built, I wanted to discuss with you the kind of, let me share my screen because I have it right here in case you are interested and because we have some time. Let me share it. So, for example, here, like some of the examples that I have, for example, is that we can collect, we can set up daily activities for our participants. We can set up a Facebook group in order to track volunteering, links to donations, like civil engagement, in order to measure their behavior, not just to ask them the things they do. And here, for example, we can apply all these methods like daily diaries, social interaction, looking at the social interactions, really observing the behavior, measuring the community engagement, and looking, for example, with narrative into their goal setting and achievements, for example. We could do all of these things that are in the range of mixed methods because you are using narratives, you are using diaries, which is autographic research. So you are using mixed methods in order to objectively measure, Matthias, and you go beyond the objectivity of this supposed service. So mixing both, being innovative and trying is the way we are supposed to go as our researchers. So I will say they are doing it more and more, especially Eranda, Yaya Bikrim. He's pushing really qualitative and narrative research for post-traumatic growth. And I will ask Farhud to send you some of their papers regarding narrative research, but just qualitative, because someone else that has narrative research in post-traumatic growth is McAdams. We have him in the last Congress and in the last workshop. So McAdams, he's also working in narrative research, which is a way of qualitative research. However, he's conducting quantitative analysis. So Eranda, I would say, has a more qualitative focus into post-traumatic growth. So I will ask Farhud to send you this kind of papers so you can look at it. However, integrating, for example, meditation, praying, walking around into different ways of collating data with the goal of allowing participants to express in a better way or different things, this is a challenge for us, for all of us. And this is why I wanted to ask you, what do you think about prayer-based research? Do you think being involved in a prayer, the kind of feelings that are there, the kind of connections they are there, do you think it can set up a specific environment that can help people to open in a certain way and you to measure the phenomena in an interesting way? What do you think?
Well, I always have to think about our first meeting in Munich, and there was a talk. I forget his name. I think we assume, and he talked about some levels of self-description, and he told us about the narrative identity. So I find a story, and that story I will put over my life and use that story to understand myself in a better way. I forgot the name. He was on the screen.
Dan McAdams.
Yes, Dan McAdams. And I think the question with praying is some sort of self-narrative. Yes. In a psychological way, a pray is I would say as some kind of self-imagination or something like that. Yes. And then I need methods to check out if that self-imagination or self-description brings some change, brings a post-traumatic growth or not. Yes. And for that proof, for that checking, I need methods. And the methods cannot be praying. But the prayer of the people is my objective, or Andrew, or if you make a research in new qualitative methods, you don't start dancing on the floor, or you are observing the dancing, and then you are make interpretation of that dancing.
Yeah, I
But
will say
I would love to see you dancing, but
I will, yeah, definitely. I think, Matthias, it is more about certain activity like dancing or drawing or meditating or praying, I'm thinking, that will set a different stage personally for you to communicate different things and then have a different phase of the phenomena. This doesn't mean that just using dance and just recording the dance and me
yes,
interpreting the
exactly.
dance,
And that is
and then
fascinating.
my
That is
research is
fascinating.
done. Yeah,
That is
exactly.
fascinating. And that is fascinating. And it's completely clear that is a serious research method. Yes. So that's completely clear. Yes. That's fascinating. But
Yeah.
you need instruments for the interpretation of that self-exploration, or
Yeah, I will say at this stage, I am not an expert in this kind of methods. I am not an expert because I work in Munich, and before that, I was working in Canada, and the methods that I am asked to use are quantitative all the time. Most of my studies are factor analysis and structural equation modeling. Because if not, I won't be able to publish anything, and then I won't be able to have my grants that I need, right, for my career. This is sad. This is sad because we are missing a lot, and not because it is hard. This means that we shouldn't do it. So we have to be innovative, and we have to integrate it, and we have to be clear on what kind of things we can actually extract from this. Because one thing is using dance and dancing with a group of people and allowing you to open. And this is like setting a stage, and it's different than just using that information and then calling it the day. So it is more about just having a small piece of something different and then contrasting with all your other methods, even quantitative methods, even interviews or focus groups or cognitive mappings or free listing, and you have several of them because now you are looking at your phenomena from different parts. So integrating, I think quantitative methods are really limited. And when you are building a survey, your survey is square. And you are just measuring the part of the phenomena that you believe is there in the construct, but you don't know because you haven't experienced the phenomena from their side, right? So technically, it is a little bit like the researcher putting his own form and just measuring the things he believes are there. But actually, the researcher as an outsider, we don't know. And we shouldn't be like that. We should be open. Now, being open is about interviewing people, hearing them, and then knowing more. But now, going beyond interviews is thinking about not everybody can express via an interview. Not everybody is open right away. We need ways for them to trust us, ways from them to feel more relaxed, ways for them to feel more connected. And this is why we use dance, art, praying, meditation. So it is more like a tool extracting certain data that will give you a different slice of the phenomenon. I will describe it like that. So even though I haven't conducted a research using these new methods, I do believe they can add a lot. And when I heard the experience of Sarah, and she was sharing that the community after this event, they were more open and they will feel, I think you told me, Sarah, they will feeling less, I think, less guilty or less judgy I don't know, because you were observing certain trauma in the community, and after this event, it was less, like something changed, and they were able to express differently and to accept them as people from these imperialistic countries, but accepting them as part of them. And this changed something in the community. And this is action research. And this is why it's so important. And you don't have any of that in quantitative research. And this is what this lesson is about. And I am leaving you really interesting I'm leaving you two papers on these new methods and one chapter of a book. They are really interesting. You can dive deeper into this. However, before going, I would like to hear you. What do you think about praying and using, like, you as theologians? It's interesting for me to know if you believe it can be helpful as one of these elicitation methods and trying to creating this environment where people can open and share more.
Sorry if it's a little loud over here. I'm also praying. I think we call it keep praying. Well, I mean, I push back at the session measurement, and I understand why it's there, because it's hard to quantify, to objectify something as science without having a graspable methodological approach to measurement. I guess as a philosopher, I just think there's things that there's qualitative dimensions of reality that exceed the shackles of measurement we throw upon them. So I'd like to hear what you're saying, Gina, about how somehow you've been forced, or at least drafted more toward the quantitative, and that's, you know, what's been required for your career to continue and to publish. But it's interesting to hear in you maybe a sense that you would like to explore this more qualitative dimension if you could, but it may be that the psychological world is not ready for that or accepting of that. I apply the same thing to thinking about the universe. It's a far too left-brained approach to things to just see quantitative dimensions of reality and think that's sufficient. So I think prayer is a super interesting example of the more qualitative dimension, more right-brained, if you want. And it's obvious that it has an impact and does great things for people, and they may not need to see that on paper in terms of methods and measurements. But that's what we need to communicate if we're trying to, I guess, make the point to the people who need to see that. So I struggle with that. I've been doing a lot of research recently in exceptional forms of experience, which really defy clear and obvious measurements. UAP phenomenon, UFO phenomenon, which it's very clear there is a phenomenon, but we don't understand it very well. Not to say that prayer and that phenomenon are similar, but that we trust too much in our abstractions, which are our methods. This was what was Whitehead's critique of materialism, which is purely quantitative understanding of the universe, reductive in nature. And so I don't know if that helps, but I'm just sort of seeing how this connects with my philosophical world in some way. But I think you should pursue the qualitative. That would be really interesting. Even though your colleagues might. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely helps. Definitely helps, Andrew. Thank you. I think one of the takeaways from today, it's really to acknowledge that reality is more complex than we often believe. And we have to push ourselves, to push our boundaries, and to try to see and try to really grasp in different ways what this reality can actually be composed of. Yeah, Sasha, I think, or who else, I think?
Yeah, I think the idea is really great in a way to try to relax people. But before doing the survey, I think it's very important to define prayer as such. I mean, there are so many kinds of prayers. I've been doing these studies on neuroscience of religion, and I just see how huge amount of variations of what people call religious experience are there. And therefore, I mean, for some people, prayer is vocal. For some people, is in silence. For some people, it's in communion. So these kind of things need to be clear out before the survey even starts. And also, it's very important the topic you want to talk about after the prayers. I mean, I believe that prayers affect people differently. Some become more extroverts, but some become more introverts. I mean, it depends how they experience the thing itself. But given that it's such a subjective state, the more clear you are about it, the better the results, and maybe more intention also. Yeah.
Thank you, Sasha. Yes, very interesting. And this is why I wanted to discuss this with you as people that are really knowledgeable about this kind of events like praying. And definitely all of these dimensions, for example, I didn't know about this. And obviously for some people it's more internal communication with themselves or with God in a certain way, and for other people it's more external. So all of this is very interesting and has to be taken into account. Definitely, Sasha, thank you for pointing it out. And I think you are already breaking ground into like already defining and systematizing and maybe testing how could it be. So you are already giving some pointers. Thank you, Sasha. I think Sarah, or did I see some hands or not?
I wasn't. Matthias, you go ahead.
No, I only want to add that the problems are the same or as in the quantitative researching. The question is the relationship between correlation and causation, or if something who is praying shows a better post-traumatic growth as some person who didn't pray. You have to check out if the praying is the cause, or perhaps because he is in a community who is stabilization him or perhaps I don't know, perhaps only rich person are praying or whatever else. Yes, and I think that the problems are similar, huh?
Definitely, Matthias, and you brought up a really important topic because one of the other things why I really like qualitative methods is that they can be as biased as quantitative methods, with one difference. Qualitative researchers, they are acknowledging this is just a view and this is just an interpretation, and they are not making the claim that this happened. And they are not saying it happens with all the communities. So they are saying this community did this, I see it like that, and my beliefs before that were those. So in this case, they are acknowledging they can be biased. And then you already know it's just a way of looking at the phenomena, not a way to describe the reality. This is about the scientific paradigm, Matthias. Like the positivism, it is about reality exists, it's out there. I can measure it and I can describe it. This is positivism. So the other that we use in qualitative research is interpretivism. It is reality is multiple. It can change from head to head, and it means different things, and it affects people in different ways. And we can only try to observe and to interpret, and it will be just an approximation. It won't be the fact that we know this is like this. So in this case, I like it because they are open, or they should be. Some of qualitative researchers, they behave like quantitative researchers, and after the study, they make claim like hard claims, and this is obviously not valid. So definitely this is the point, Matthias. And the thing that I like about qualitative research is that you know that you are an influence in the study, that you know that you are biased, and your bias is making some effects in the phenomena and your conclusions. So everyone that reads qualitative research, they already know that. But obviously, we know we have the same in quantitative research. And this is what I try to teach you the whole year. Like, be critical with the analysis, be critical with the claims, like, be critical. Don't trust them. Don't just because they found a p-value in their correlational analysis, they mean they prove their hypothesis. This is not true. So this is the difference between quantitative and qualitative research. And yes, this is why, well, obviously, my responsibility is to share with you most of the methods, all of the methods. I didn't want it to generate more bias, just showing you quantitative methods. However, I was asked by mainstream to teach you more about quantitative analysis, which Sarah had enough of. But obviously, sharing with you qualitative research, the importance, and really, if we are innovative and we do it in a smart way, it can mean a lot of important things. One of the qualitative research that I already did, and I already shared it with Amber, is cognitive mapping. So I was using free listing, pile sorting, and I was drawing this conceptual or mental maps of certain phenomena. It was very interesting. I really liked the research, the results, and I'm proud of it. And it is mixed methods, because at certain point I use quantitative analysis, but you can do it, like, and it's valid and reliable and publishable. So it can be done if we are careful enough to integrate and to think outside the box and trying to do it in this way. And for example, to answer Andrew, this is one of the things why I am now pursuing a scholarship in Latin America, which allow more freedom, and I am not bound by this kind of restrictions, so I can really pursue the kind of research that I want. And this is actually the reason why I am not participating, for example, with Farhud directly, and this is why Farhud was conducting the experiment, because I want to ethically and as a methodologist, I want to do it the way I believe I will grasp the phenomena the better, not the way mainstream academia is willing to publish it. So this is why I am now trying to do the next step for me. And well, today is the last session with me. The only other session that you have for this year is with Farhud next Friday, and that's it. You are free, you are done. Hopefully you like the course, you are more knowledgeable regarding research methods, and you have new ideas of how to go in your own research. So if you have any questions, now
Yes,
is
I have a question, Gina. Will you be in January a part of the session in Munich?
I will be there with you. Yes.
So there will be the opportunity to say thank you to you and to give you some flowers or something like that.
Oh wow, you don't have to, Matthias, but yes, I will be there definitely with you.
Okay, but let me talk. Let me tell. I want to thank you. I want to thank you. I always had the sessions with you with a great impact for me, and I think so. You made it really engaged, and by the way, I understood every single word. Andrew, yes. If she is talking, I understand it. Yes. Andrew, did you hear that?
Yeah. Unlike me.
Yeah. No, thank you. I learned
Gina,
a lot.
thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Gina. I reiterate.
You made it great. So let me say thank you for that, Gina.
Yeah.
And for your openness to just extra time taken, and you're always ready to just answer questions and discuss, and you've really helped me, so thank you for that. Thank you for the extra time. You've really gone above and beyond.
Definitely. You're welcome. It was great for me also to be here with you. I learned a lot from you, from all of you, and like, I wish you the best with your studies. If you ever need some guidance, feel free to write, and I'm happy to provide a little bit more guide. And it was great being with you. And yes, we will be able to share some more during the last workshop, and also drinks. I think we have a schedule there, a jazz session. So we are already introducing new methods of sharing in the group. And yeah, I think it will be great. Thank you all for being part of this experiment, a little bit an experiment that we had here. And wish you the best with your studies, and see you on January. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Adios.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.